This episode is brought to you by the Arvada Center. 7 strangers, 1 remote country house, a snowstorm, and then somebody turns up dead. The Mousetrap runs September 5th through October 12th at the Arvada Center. See for yourself why Agatha Christie's ingenious detective story is the longest-running play in the world. Tickets are available now at arvadacenter.org. That's arvadacenter.org.
Today on CityCast Denver, we're looking back at a huge week of news. As President Trump calls on Democrat-run cities to watch as he cracks down on D.C., Colorado's Democratic members of Congress finally got a look at what's going on inside the ICE facility in Aurora. And no one likes what they're seeing. Plus, could Colorado lead the country again with a next-generation nuclear reactor at the airport? The city is divided, and we're getting into the debates that matter, with a couple of guests who don't hold back. Today is Friday, August 15th. I'm Paul Caroli, and here's what Denver's talking about. Hey, before we get to today's conversation, I got a favor to ask. CityCast is doing our annual listener survey, and it would really help us out if you took it. If you took it last year, it would really mean a lot if you took it again, since all that data, it's almost exactly, let me check my watch, 1 year old. Please go to citycast.fm/survey to take the survey. It's only 7 minutes long. We timed it. That's citycast.fm/survey. And when you take it, you're going to be eligible to win a $250 Visa gift card and some CityCast Denver swag, TBD. citycast.fm/survey. Welcome back to CityCast Denver, the show about the city that probably for the first time in 15 years rewatched Idiocracy the other night. I gotta tell you, it's like watching a friggin' documentary.
It's like watching the news.
It's like a friggin' documentary, that movie.
If anything,
it's so real.
If anything, it's too optimistic. Because the president in that movie makes correct decisions where he's like, oh, we have a smart guy. Let's listen to him. Oh, the smart guy says, change out the Gatorade or whatever for water.
Brondo.
I'm not sure if our current leadership would do something like that.
Make America healthy again.
So, yeah.
It is very, honest. I mean, it's a lame joke I did, but it's very true. And it holds up like crazy. That movie is so good. I had the same impression though, Deep. It's hopeful. And the main character, he listens to people. Like he recognizes that everyone around him is like very dumb, but he listens and cares, and then they reach a conclusion that is better, and life gets better.
Yeah, President Moundu Camacho is probably a better leader than we have in many states.
He might be.
And in the federal government.
He's a better wrestler.
That is, imagine going back in time, like people will watch this movie and yearn for a leader such as Moundu Camacho.
I have not seen this movie in quite a few years, but I did watch it during the last Trump presidency, and it was just like, oh no. So I'm glad y'all have seen it.
You were like, It's a freaking documentary.
I know.
It's a freaking documentary. Okay, I'll stop.
It's a little bit different though. Like Trump is more like a Diet Coke and Cheeto, and maybe that's the issue, right? He's like Diet Coke and Cheeto, but we really need was Mountain Dew and Camacho.
Yeah.
That's what we need to find for our next presidential candidate in the Democratic side.
Stop.
Someone who's aligned with the right brands.
Yeah.
No.
So what is
Hard
that?
Pass.
Governor Newsom and Diamond. I don't know. Anyway, it's Friday.
Hair gel, whatever it is.
He does have good hair.
I'm saying
it's maybe his best quality. I've heard good taste in wine as well. Anyway, it's Friday. We're looking back at the big week of news. We're in the beautiful Dude IDK studios in 5 Points. We have 2 returning guests today since Bree is out, sadly. One of our favorite regulars, he's a bona fide Capitol insider with so many takes on too many social media platforms I literally can't follow. Deep Singh Badesha, hey, what's up?
Hey, I'm excited to be back. Thanks for having me.
What's your favorite platform to post on right now?
This is awful. I'm still sort of attached to the artist formerly known as Twitter, X.com. It's just something that site has that Blue Sky doesn't have, that Threads doesn't have, that TikTok, Instagram. It's first off, as someone who loves posting online, now that I have to post on 5 websites, it just feels not the same. But there's something on X that's just so, there's a viral quality to it. The algorithm's always showing you new things. You can kind of fight with the other side. And that's still where a lot of the politicians, I would say staff members, journalists, all kind of still hang out. So that's still a first spot where you see news.
You like to mix it up too.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a little sleazy, which
Yeah.
I like. Julie, how about you?
It's the algorithm that is built to encourage friction and tension, and also just the number of hate and death threats that I get. I left Twitter last year.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you've heard her voice. She's a state senator representing North and West Denver. Welcome back to the show, Julie Gonzalez.
hi, y'all. Great to be here.
So, Julie, I have to ask you, because I was looking at your district map and I noticed something that I'd never noticed before. You represent Denver, North and West Denver, like I said, but I think you also represent Lakeside. Is that right?
No, that's Inspiration Point.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There's that little nub out on the outside.
Yep.
Okay,
That's Inspiration Point. It's still Denver proper.
Well, I was going to ask you about Lakeside, but now I guess you probably
there's
don't have an inside.
Oh, but there's drama there.
What do you know? What do you know that we don't know?
Didn't the police chief and his daughter
Yes.
get prosecuted for, insider shadiness?
It's a little shady. Yeah, that's what I heard. I don't know. Okay, so a little bit of business before our top story. One, I made a mistake a few days ago, and I'm sorry about that. So this is another edition of Paul Correctly. Paul Caroli was wrong a few days ago. I'm here correctly. On Tuesday's show with Patty Calhoun, I made the error of doing math. The tipped minimum wage is going up in January to $16.27 an hour in Denver. I said that would amount to, over the course of a year for a 40-hour per week worker, $10,000. That's actually crazy. That's not right. I was taking one step further. What we did in the newsletter is we summed up 10 of such workers. So that's about $10,000. The actual increase for a worker doing 40 hours a week would be about $921. So that math was wrong. And that was just all very wrong. Sorry about that. Big difference. But now we know.
All good. It's hard to math in public.
I know. I should never do it.
That's why we need a little AI bot. Actually, AI is pretty bad at math still.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, but like a little
I
factor.
never asked it.
Or a calculator.
That's true. That's the original AI calculator. My math teacher said I would never have a calculator in my pocket, but joke's on her. I now have a supercomputer in my pocket.
You should let her know. We have a membership program also. If you haven't heard about it, it's the best way to support the show. Also, you get great perks when you join, stuff like shout outs. You can do shout outs in our newsletter. We love hearing places you like, ad-free podcast listening, and invitations to members only events like the one we're doing at the end of this month at the Schoolyard Beer Garden in the Golden Triangle. Very cool spot. You've been.
I have not yet been.
Oh, you gotta go. It's
I've
great.
driven by. It just looks so cool. I've been in the building before it was redesigned. So I'm very much looking forward to checking it out.
It'll be interesting for the special session, and then also next session is there's. I feel like people used to hang out like Racine's, or they used to go to like
Shout
Cap
out to
City-
Racine's. Oh.
not Cap City Tavern or like City Grill, or Cap Grill. What was it called? But it'll be interesting if that like new schoolyard, because it's so close to the Capitol, so close to the Denver City building. Wonder if that will be a new congregating site for like aides and lobbyists.
Could be. I saw it last time I was at Champagne Tiger on Colfax. James Coleman and Alec Garnett walked in for a meeting, and I thought, oh, maybe that's the place where these political insider types are doing their business. But you two know better than I do. I don't know.
I feel like you want cheaper than Champagne Tiger, but it's a cool place.
It is a cool.
That's where a lobbyist would take somebody. That's probably what we should do.
All right, let's get to our top story. This week, the Trump crackdown continues. President Donald Trump announced this week he's sending in the National Guard and taking control of Washington, D.C.'s police department because he alleges the city has been, quote, overtaken by violent gangs and bloodthirsty criminals, roving mobs of wild youth, drugged out maniacs, and homeless people. He also called on Democrat-led cities like Denver to take note of all this because apparently we're next. Though we're already seeing the effects of Trump's crackdown on the Mile High. And that's where we're going to start with this delegation of Colorado's 4 Democrat members of Congress who were finally allowed to tour the ICE detention facility in Aurora and what they saw. But Julie, I think we should start with you. This is your issue, immigration. Why is it so important to know what's happening inside this facility?
A key cornerstone of democracy is transparency and accountability. And the idea that sitting members of Congress who have oversight to ensure that ICE is treating the detainees in a humane manner while they're litigating their immigration cases, right? Trying to determine whether they will be removed or whether they'll be able to stay in the United States, whether many of whom have, valid claims of asylum and defenses to deportation and all of these things. The fact that ICE was just like, nah, don't want to, and that it took all 4 members going together to be able to walk in, ask questions, and then get stonewalled with a bunch of, I don't know, no information, TBD, is, I think, incredibly concerning and yet also a victory. I'm grateful that they went and did it. I'm grateful that they were able to go and speak with Jeanette Vizquerra, a longtime immigrant rights activist. Back in the day, I was her paralegal in her immigration case.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Shout out Jeanette. It's a huge step forward. And yet also, I think just a note on how deeply our democracy is under threat and attack in this moment.
Deep, I want to know what you made of the comments, specifically from Representative Diana DeGette. She said to CPR after the tour that the delegation were told that by the people in there, the detainees, that they had been told to clean up and to spiff up and to make things look good.
Going back to the transparency, like, you're not trying to hide something. If the government wasn't trying to hide something, they would give full access to these Congress folks, right? It's pretty obvious that when you have these scheduled visits now, things are going to clean up. Representative Crow had talked about this in particular, where he liked to do unannounced visits. Like, he would just show up at ICE unannounced because he felt like he would see the more of the raw deal about what was going on. If this oversight returns, but it's only on scheduled visits, we basically still have lost the oversight there. And that's something that Representative DeGette was talking about. But I hope this becomes a wake-up call to our 4 members of Congress. Our 4 members of Congress are in 4 very safe blue seats, some of the safest in the entire country. And oftentimes I still hear them talk about bipartisanship. I still hear them talk about working with the other side or finding common ground, or they don't sound like there's an emergency there, right? And if you're an immigrant, or if you're a person of color, or if you're in DC right now, you've had your civil liberties stripped away. You've had your rights and privileges stripped away. And it sounds like for the first time in maybe a while, these representatives had their rights and privileges stripped away. They represent us, so it's really our rights, again, being stripped away. But I hope this is a wake-up call for them, right? They're like, if they can do this to city members of Congress, imagine what they're going to be doing to the rest of us.
Just to pick up on that point, I do think that, maybe if you are not an immigrant, or if you don't have a lot of immigrants in your life, you may think, what? That doesn't impact me. Why is this an issue? And I often have said that immigrants, trans folks, Muslims, other communities at the margins, those folks are the canaries in the coal mine, right? And so if you are not intentionally thinking about, how does this impact me directly? Hey, if it's impacting somebody else, it could be you next on the chopping block. And that's just something to always, keep in the back of your mind.
I think it will be, right? Like, again, like you said, canaries in the coal mine. It's easy to go after the most marginalized folks. And oftentimes I have many friends of mine who are still Republican, still vote Republican, right? And many of them are gay men, right? Happily married gay men. The Supreme Court is now going after Obergefell, which legalized gay marriage, right? So these things will keep going, right? Like, no one is protected from this. It's going to become to a point where if you disagree with this administration, if your city is not aligned with this vision, if something's happening, you might be there next. And, it's good to see these 4 Congress folks step up and do this. And I hope this is a wake-up call to them that we really need to start fighting here.
Well, this is such an interesting issue to me because because I've been seeing the Democrats kind of scramble to try to figure out what a message on immigration is going to be ever since Trump won, because you two are making this point about like creeping authoritarianism and like this group being targeted and then this group being targeted. And I feel like what Trump did is he made immigration an issue that affects everybody by linking it to the economy. And I wonder what you think the Democrat version of that would be. Not the creeping authoritarianism, but like what's the pocketbook version of this? What's the Democrat version of like immigration is core to everybody and here's the message?
I think immigrants make up a fundamental part of our economy, our communities. Immigrants make us stronger and always have. We have always been stronger when we allow people to come and innovate and contribute to our communities, hands down. And to see the Trump administration falsely link immigrants with crime or to scapegoat immigrants as being the reason that our economy is in the dump, right? Instead of correctly holding, his tariffs to account for the reason why our economy is in free fall, right? He sees immigrants as the scapegoat for everything that is wrong with society, as when, the fact of the matter is immigrants make us stronger.
I will say, I think part of the things that were happening, right, it's like authoritarianism doesn't happen overnight, right? And I think it's important for Democrats also to take some blame on certain these things, is if the American public, I truly believe this, the American public knew who was undocumented, who was here on asylum cases, whether it was their restaurant workers or their neighbors, kids on their the same little league team as their kids, right? If Americans knew about that more, I think they wouldn't have been so hostile to immigration. And you have to look at the last 20 years of immigration policy that pushed immigrants to the shadows, where people weren't necessarily talking about, oh, I'm undocumented. Oh, I'm not here. I'm here as an asylee, right? And that has to be a reflection on also Obama's policies. People said that Obama was deporter in chief. Trump's first term, Biden's term as well, right? That pushed these folks that we forgot that, 99% of the folks who are here without documents are peaceful. They're here working jobs. They're your restaurant workers. They're their construction workers. They're grandmas, right? That is something that led us to this scenario where we now see our neighbors, grandma, like again, and to the point where like Gabe Evans, right? Gabe Evans' grandfather,
Republican congressman from C4 up north.
If you don't know who Gabe Evans is, welcome to CityCast. Become a neighbor.
Hey.
But Gabe Evans, congressman from the northern suburbs, Weld County, Adams County. He is Hispanic. He often talks about his grandfather's story. And I'm not sure if it was in his family that they didn't tell him, but his grandfather was an illegal immigrant or an undocumented immigrant into America and was accused of committing a burglary or a robbery. Under Trump's current policies, under Gabe Evans and Republicans' policies, he would have been deported, right? He would have been in an ICE facility right now, probably in Aurora. And it's like, where do we get to in America that immigrants were so marginalized that even if this was just a story of your family, that you wouldn't be proudly talking about it? So I think Democrats have to take some blame on how we got here. And I think we now need to recover a lot of ground and talk about, like you were saying, immigrants is what make America.
I want to share the response from ICE that Denver 7's Brandon Richards got after the Democrats' comments that we talked about earlier. ICE's statement reads, "To be honest, we could have written the congressional delegation's press statements well in advance of their tour, given this tired tactic from the open borders Democrats. Tour a facility, make up lies about it after. Accusations that ICE is denying access or hiding conditions at our detention centers are completely absurd, and we have the receipts to prove it. Further, these members should know that demanding special treatment that breaks long-standing policies and jeopardizes privacy, security, and safety will not be considered." What do you make of that, Julie?
Orwellian. It is doublespeak. What I don't hear in their response is, here's the conditions, actually. Here are the contracts that we have, say, with food vendors to demonstrate that the food that detainees are receiving is not moldy which is what a number of detainees have reported back, right? If they have to resort to the, rhetoric of press releases and what have you, man, like that is, it is just Orwellian. I don't even know what more to say about that.
It is interesting, the nature, the debate over the conditions. Like, it does feel like this information should just be public. And I wonder what the deal is with the Geo group that has the contract to run this detention center and ICE, because like Crow has been visiting this place since 2019 and his reports are all on his website. You can see what he's looking for. It's looking for meals, like you're talking about, how many people are sick, the temperatures that certain areas of the facility are kept to. Apparently there's a place in this facility called the Transgender Pod, and there are currently 14 people in that. So he's like looking at all of these things, but I wonder why that's up to him. Like, why isn't that just, I would have assumed that would have been public information somewhere, given that this is a public facility. We're paying for all of it.
100%.
Yeah. I don't know.
In a more normal functioning government, maybe Jason Crow doesn't have to visit randomly throughout the week, right? That there's ways to actually have these checks and balances in place. Jason Crow was elected after Trump's first administration, right? He's elected in the middle of that. So I think a lot of that, hey, we had to double check everything that's going on, came from the first administration's abuse and is now, of course, spilling into that second administration.
Yeah. So the other piece of this week, the announcement was, another reason the Democrats might be wanting to see inside the facility is because it sounds like it's quite full. The Denver Post reported this week that ICE is planning to convert a shuttered prison in Hudson, Colorado, which is about 30 miles northeast, just north of Brighton, east of Platteville, into a second ICE detention facility for the state, which would double their capacity with another 1,250 beds. What does this mean? Let's read the tea leaves here of this announcement. Deep, what do you think?
It is frustrating to see that, there's some small towns have been arguing for, we've based our entire economy on incarceration, so we need more incarceration to come back. Even if you gave Trump's administration the benefit of the doubt, which I'm not sure if you should, but if you give them the benefit of the doubt that there are folks who are criminals and who are dangerous and we should go get them. If you look at the percentage of immigrants who are what percentage of immigrants commit crimes? They commit crimes at a much lower level than civilians do. It's probably less than 5%, maybe closer to 1% people. Those folks have, from these draconian actions, have probably already been rounded up, right, without due process. So now what you're really going after is, again, construction workers, folks who work in the restaurant industry, folks who work in service industries, people who are part of the PTA, people who are dropping off their kids, involved in their kids' schools. Those are the people that's going. So I would say shame on this town and the people there who are, essentially setting up like a modern day concentration camp. Because who is going to go there?
They might not have chosen this. Who knows how this happened? We don't know.
I mean, that's the thing that I think a lot of people need to realize, right? Is like when you have this creeping fascism, this creeping authoritarianism, what's happening in DC, what's happening here, it becomes everyone's responsibility to start standing up, right? I remember.
What should they do? Should they go protest outside this prison?
I would like to see some leadership from the governor or the state legislature in this. Governor Ralph Carr. We tell this story about him often, about when FDR started putting Japanese folks on the west side of the United States into internment camps. Governor Carr said, not in my state. I'm not going to cooperate with this. These people are citizens. These people are residents of the United States of America, and I'm not going to put them in camps, right? It probably cost him his political career, but I would like to start seeing this courage from folks.
Something I've noticed from the Democrats is I feel like a lot of folks are just like caving to the Republican messaging, like the whole framework around this issue, this talk of who's a criminal. The criminals should be the ones that are deported. We agree with that. Like Brittany Pedersen posted, she's the congressperson, went on this trip. She said, it's terrifying that the hundreds of billions of dollars dedicated to ICE and their unlawful actions are going to be more widespread and impact Colorado. And then this is the interesting part. There isn't a person who doesn't support making sure there is a process in place to deport convicted violent criminals. Is that true?
The criminal legal system, I have so much to say on this. And I'm trying to think about where to start.
Go off. Senadora, uncensored. Let's bring the heat.
Oh, my goodness. Here's the thing. The criminal legal system exists for a reason, right? If you believe in our judicial system, in our rules of checks and balances, in in the fact that our judicial system will hold people to account for the harm that they cause in society, that is the role of our criminal legal system. Our district attorney, our defense attorney or public defender, right? And the judge. They make arguments around what is true, what is right, or what is not, and what is an appropriate level of punishment for that. In this country, last I checked, you are innocent until proven guilty, right? That is no longer the case if you are not a native-born U.S. citizen, right? What I've heard from my district attorney, from district attorneys across the state, is that the Trump administration, when defendants, victims, witnesses to crime are also in deportation proceedings and picked up and being held and detained at GEO, the DA Walsh just 2 weekends ago I was at a meeting, a community meeting, where he was talking about the fact that when the DA's office requested, hey, this person's at GEO, we need them in court here in Denver for this on this particular date for a court date, ICE was actually removing them and deporting them before they could actually go and have their day in court. That is unconscionable, and I think demonstrates why, again, if you're not an immigrant, you think, why does this matter to me? This idea that you could be deported and sent to not even your country of origin, but some third random country, CICA in El Salvador or other places across the world that the Trump administration is now trying to send deported people to, it is terrifying. Now, look, we all know that the criminal legal system in the state and at the federal level is meant to adjudicate those criminal issues, right? And then the immigration courts are meant to be the place where you say, the immigration judges are able to say, hey, okay, let's evaluate the totality of the circumstances and let's adjudicate whether or not this person should be deported or not. If you believe in the rule of law, you should allow people, regardless of their status, to be able to have their day in court, right? I thought that's what this country was founded on. And to see, though, that ICE is deporting people before they've been held to account for the harm that they've caused in certain instances, in increasing instances, actually, or to see that ICE is also labeling people as criminals whose traffic infractions from 15 years ago are the reason, right? Like
in Jeanette Vizquera's case.
Absolutely, right? Like, or in other people's cases, right? Like, and like an old careless driving ticket from 2011 is going to label someone as, to use the Trump rhetoric and language, a criminal alien, right? Guys, that's what the immigration judges should be deciding. But instead, we have these masked agents who are operating all across the country, in Los Angeles still, and here in Colorado, who are instead just picking people up off the streets with no warrants, with no due process. When people are asking for warrants, they are being refused, and they're being disappeared. That's happening right now, today, in the United States of America. And if you are a U.S. citizen, you think, oh, whatever, this doesn't impact me. I'm sorry. Go look at LA, which was just under martial law. Go look at DC, which is now under martial law. I saw this news article last night about a guy who, they declared martial law in DC and had a curfew set up. And this guy is, screaming, shame, shame. And then he he was walking out of a Subway and he threw his sandwich at one of the National Guard dudes, they are charging him with assault. He is facing a felony.
And like, we should believe them when they're giving us their game plan, right? It's not like they hid any of this. They literally called it Project 2025. Stephen Miller's on so many of these podcasts saying like, hey, this is the idea. Look, they just gave ICE the largest military budget in the entire globe outside of like 2 countries. ICE is larger than most standing militaries worldwide, right? Second, they're going after stripping people who were either born in the United States as citizens or naturalized citizens. So they're stripping them of citizenship, right? And now they're talking about, oh, you're also going to be committing crimes if you're aiding and abetting undocumented folks, right? And who is that? That's, oh, a kid goes to your school and gets taxpayer money. They're paying taxes too, but you're aiding and abetting an undocumented person then. Oh, you hired them? Aiding and abetting, right? So it's going to creep in. They're going to use this as a wedge issue to get everybody who disagrees with them, right? It sort of reflects on the administration has a strict like lockdown against Palestinian activists. And one of the reasons they're going after Palestinian activists is because they have identified those folks as if they're standing up for this issue, they're going to stand up against us for all these other issues, right? And they're using that as an issue to go after the most proud activists and to defang a movement, right? But this is something that's being laid out. And I'm just going to say this. It's only been 8 months.
I know.
It hasn't been, we have 3 more years of this.
Well,
So
we'll see what happens next year. The Democrats retake the House. This dynamic changes.
But they might not because of the gerrymandering in Texas, right?
So here's an interesting thing, though, because I've long said that the Republican Party is going to have to reconcile its unholy trinity alliance, right, that they have built of the corporate interests, the xenophobic / white supremacist interests, and the third rung of this stool, or I guess the third leg of the stool, is the Christian nationalists, right? At a certain point, I thought in the Bible it said, treat the stranger as you would treat your own family, right? To treat every human being with dignity and respect. And yet, so there's an open question there, right? Even under, you mentioned Congressman Evans' family history, right? Look, when Congressman Evans signed on as a co-sponsor of the Dignity Act, right, which is the Republican effort to try to say, no, look, we believe in immigration reform too. And here's the policy with 17 hoops you got to jump through in order to maybe qualify to be entered into a lottery to potentially, do you know what I mean? It's like ridiculous. But even for him putting his name on that piece of legislation, the lead prime sponsor of that effort is a congresswoman out of Florida who is also an immigrant. Gabe Evans, grandson of immigrants. There are his own colleagues within the House who are calling for both Gabe Evans and for Congresswoman Maria Salazar to be deported. That is the fracture that exists right now within the Republican Party that they are going to have to answer for and contend with.
I don't think they're going to. They like it.
I think they're just a cult. I think it's like an authoritarian thing made around a strong man's vision and the people around him, right? And I think whatever he says is go. I mean, let's talk about the Jeffrey Epstein thing, right? For the longest time possible, I knew so many people who on the right, they were like, well, Jeffrey Epstein, what about Bill Clinton? Like Jeffrey Epstein. And I'm like, okay, release the files. And then all of a sudden, he's like a Jedi mind trick. It's really like a Sith mind trick, but they're like, there are no files to be seen. And they're also like just now out loud saying, oh, Trump was in the files, so that's why we can't release them. And I'm like, am I losing my mind? It's just like you literally 180'd on this issue, and there's nothing that they're going to not 180 on. So I really need like progressives and Democrats and independents and the few sane Republicans that are left to wake up.
Well, we are about to actually enter in, right? The One Big Beautiful Bill Act that has funded ICE so massively, which is now leading to kind of tie all this together. that is now leading to the opening of the Hudson Correctional Facility as a potential new ICE detention center, right? ICE is now offering, while simultaneously the federal government is doging and slashing government workers in government agencies all across the federal government. Meanwhile, ICE officers are going to get a $50,000 signing bonus and access to student loan forgiveness. And now with not only Hudson potentially opening, but 5 other locations just in Colorado, right? It really begs us the question. And that's why I say that the Republicans of conscience, independents, Democrat, all of us, we all have a stake in asking the question, at what point are we going to just blindly follow the orders of the Trump administration, authoritarian as it may be? Or at what point do we say, you know what? My constitutional obligation is to obey lawful orders, but these orders are unlawful. These are unjust. These are inhumane. That's the question that people of conscience in Colorado and across the country are going to have to ask themselves.
Yeah, the Ralph Carr point again, which was good. So a few things. So Julie, you mentioned the immigration judges earlier. I just have to say that 2 of those judges, I think there's like 5 or 6 here in Denver, and 2 quit, intimidated by the Trump administration, and 1 was fired. So we're already short-staffed there. And that backlog is growing. Then 2, I've been living up in northern Colorado, Evans Country, Bober Country, as I like to call it, with my in-laws the last couple of weeks. And there is a neighbor down the street that has a flag that says God, guns, and Trump on it. So all those things fit on one flag, even though I don't think any of them like each other. And then South Park has been so good on this. Are you all watching?
Colorado's very own. Thank you.
They're so good.
The bravest people in Colorado are the Casa Bonita owners.
They are.
And oh my God.
It's like, I never liked this show before, but then Wednesday night, it was supposed to come out, and my wife was like, is South Park on? And I was like, oh no, they're taking another week off. I'm desperate for it. I love these guys.
They're probably making an episode about the current events.
Yeah.
And then right before they release it, they're like, God damn it, now we have to redo this. Like, DC's under fascist control. So I was making a joke about this on Twitter, but I would not be surprised if they start actually like using their souped up ICE to harass things like Casa Bonita, right?
I wonder.
Because like there is going to be some sort of retaliation, right? They're going to start suing, right? Like, the number one thing they're doing is they're weaponizing the court system too, right? They weaponize it against colleges, against law firms, and and media companies, right? Stephen Colbert got canceled.
Dana Rodriguez famously came to the United States as an undocumented immigrant in the 90s. Now she's the chef.
And we'll challenge
a great example of what we're talking about.
Donald Trump, try to sue CityCast and see what happens.
I just wish that in South Park...
Please don't do that. Julie, go on.
I just wish that in the South Park episode about the ICE raids, that somebody would have pulled out the red card with Know Your Rights information, that a passerby would have called the Colorado Rapid Response Network to report ICE activity, right? Like, we keep ourselves safe. We keep each other safe. And those resources, shout out to all the organizers and volunteers across the state who are doing incredible organizing to document and react to these raids that are taking place across Denver and across all of Colorado.
All right, we got to take a quick break because this was I would love to talk to you more about this, but another time. We need to take a break, and then we're going to talk about a very radioactive hot topic in Denver.
This episode is brought to you by Rocky Mountain PBS. Rocky Mountain PBS is part of a national PBS network, streaming acclaimed PBS films and series, in-depth journalism, and of course, lots of local content. From award-winning masterpiece dramas and captivating mysteries to thought-provoking documentaries and trusted news, Rocky Mountain PBS brings you the best of PBS, plus so much more. And with Rocky Mountain PBS Kids, you get 24/7 Kids TV, so your little ones can enjoy fun, educational entertainment anytime. Montgomery watches this one called Work It Out Wombats, but he calls it Work It Out Longbats. And it's like 3 wombats solving puzzles. I don't know. It's wild. Plus, Rocky Mountain PBS has launched RMPBS Plus, a new streaming app that offers PBS favorites and local content. To start watching, download Rocky Mountain PBS Plus for free from your device's app store or go to rmpbs.org to learn more. Explore it all at rmpbs.org.
Got any fun trips coming up? One thing you probably haven't put on your packing list is learning the language. But with Babbel, you can start talking in just a few weeks. I'm David Plotz, the CEO of CityCast, and I've been learning Spanish with Babbel. And I also just persuaded my friend who's going to France this fall to learn French with Babbel, but that is another story. Babbel's extremely fun and intuitive. It's like having a private tutor in your pocket. Handcrafted by over 200 language experts, Babbel's lessons are voiced by real native speakers and built with science-backed cognitive tools and interactive features to fit any learning style. I love a lot of the different Babbel features. The Babbel games for sentence building, Babbel speech recognition, which helps me get the pronunciation right. And now I'm really into Babbel's word of the day, which greets me on the homepage of the app. Every day, a new word revealed like a little surprise with a sentence to help contextualize it. It's like a daily treat for me. Studies from Yale, Michigan State, and other leading universities continue to prove that Babbel works. One study found that using Babbel for 15 hours is equivalent to a full semester at college. Look, I want you to learn another language. So I'm teaming up with Babbel to gift you 55% off subscriptions, but only for CityCast listeners at babbel.com/CityCast. Get up to 55% off at babbel.com/CityCast. Spelled BABBEL.com/CityCast. Babbel.com/CityCast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
And we're back. Our hot topic this week is something that President Trump and our mayor, Mike Johnston, seem to agree on. Nuclear power might be a good idea, but not everyone is on board. The story here is after DIA CEO Phil Washington and the mayor announced last Wednesday that our airport was commissioning a study, $1.25 million, around the possibility of building a reactor out there. The pushback was fierce, and now the plan is suspended. So some people say it's a good way to generate clean energy. Other people say, are you crazy? What do you two think?
Well, first off, I think it's what a topic change. But I think adding a nuclear reactor to DIA would only further further increase the conspiracy theories around the airport. People are like, did you know it's completely off the grid? It's the only airport in the world that has a nuclear reactor. It would go bananas. And for that, it's like, oh, we should at least kick the tires.
Kind of fits, right?
But I am
branding wise.
I'm a proponent of nuclear energy. And I think there's a lot of free marketing, unfortunately, on progressives and the Democrats and the left. I think a lot of it's NIMBYism, which is like not in my backyard. And as you know, if you're from Denver, DIA is in no one's backyard. So it is what it is.
Well, they're building new backyards out there, though.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question, though, real quick.
Great.
What percentage of France's energy comes from nuclear?
Like a ton of it. They're very heavily reliant on
nuclear. Have you been to
nuclear.
France? Have you been to France?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a nice place, right?
Yeah, it's where the lovely
just
ladies
guess
dance
what
or something.
percentage comes from nuclear.
I have no idea.
It's 70%.
Wow.
We're letting the French eat our lunch on this stuff? Like the French, just, I don't know. You don't see them as nuclear scientists, really, in my opinion. But 70% of France's energy production comes from nuclear, right? It is safe. It is there. You can use it. These small modular reactors are, from what I understand, a cheaper way to build it, and it can produce a lot of energy. Climate change is also an existential threat, right? We're dealing with multiple existential threats. In Denver, it's been so hot lately. You can see the effects in climate change. The ski season is getting slower. We now need AC everywhere where we didn't need it before. So climate change is really that. And the other thing I'm going to put about nuclear reactors is everyone's like, oh, it's unsafe. It's dangerous. We can't have it there. I'm not sure if people know this, but we have nuclear-fueled aircraft carriers and submarines that dock outside of major metropolitan cities, right? We've had these for 50, 60 years without an accident. We have boats. We put nuclear reactors tens of thousands of feet under the sea. And I'm like, we can do this technology. And one of the reasons we don't is, unfortunately, oil and gas oftentimes doesn't want this technology to happen. So they're able to, go on the reactionary left and be like, hey, not in your backyard, right? You want this oil and gas, right? So that's my takes.
I was talking to a nuclear engineer who worked for the Navy at a wedding a few weeks ago, and he was like, people don't know this, but like we build 2 aircraft carriers a year that have these giant reactors in them that are, like, we do it on the East Coast. Like they're being built currently. And I don't know. People just don't like, there's something about nuclear that is not well understood. And I think it's this like lingering stigma around these big disasters. But
I grew up, watching The Simpsons and,
Sure.
seeing the 3-eyed fish. So I think part of the pushback to even conducting the study is that DIA did not talk to community first, right? I think had they had those discussions with folks in Green Valley Ranch, folks in Montbello, folks in Adams County, right, to say, hey, here's a thing, let's study it so that we can actually respond to the questions. What things would you like to have be included in said study, right? That could have played out so differently, right?
Yeah.
And just a fail on behalf of DIA to engage with community first.
This was Councilmember Stacey Gilmore's concern as well. She was like, we weren't consulted. It would have been nice. But isn't this the thing that Deep was bringing up though? Like, why open the door for NIMBYs to say no? Of course they'll say no. Like, why can't we all agree we want the clean power? We want it.
This is this interesting argument. They're like Republicans, when they get Democratic control, right? We vote for the representatives, and you could say that the Senate's not really, and there's gerrymandering, so it's not even a legitimate democracy. But when they get Democratic control from the constituents, they're like, okay, we were elected to do these XYZ things, right? Let's go do them, right? They're not having blue ribbon commissions. They're not asking
Conducting
people like,
studies.
do you want us to do this? They're like, no, you elected us for the vision that we put out for the last 18 months of this campaign. We're going to go execute it, right? Democrats are electing people who are like, let's fight climate change, right? Climate change is an existential thing. People under 35 are listening as the top 3 issues of their lifetime, right? Because we see how devastating climate change is, right? I need Democrats to start having a vision for this country and start having an idea of what to do in our cities and our states to make these things better. And listen, if a nuclear reactor is going to take off one of our largest sources of energy consumption in the city, county, and the state, Denver International Airport, then we should do it. And you should do a study, and you should push through it, and you should do it. If we need a train, we should build the train, right? Like, I am tired of Democrats not having this confidence to set a vision. And that's the thing that I think people don't like. It's like, who are you voting for? What are you doing? I'm like, I'm not voting for you to, like, just waddle your thumbs and, take off the mall from 16th Street Mall. Like, I need actual change. I'm feisty today. Oh, God. Sorry, go.
I was going to let you finish, But no, I would just say that climate change is an existential threat. For those who are arguing no to even a study around nuclear energy, while we continue to allow Suncor, which provides all of the fuel for the airplanes, right, to continue to pollute and to create disastrous health effects for community in the north side of Denver and in Adams County, we have to at least treat both of these issues on the same footing, right? What would happen if Suncor were to leave, right? What would then power DIA, which is a huge driving part of our economy, right? To have that question around, could it be nuclear? I'd like to see, could it be solar? Could it be wind, right? But if you can't even have the conversation, y'all, what are we doing?
But you want them to have the conversation with the neighbors.
Exactly. I think engage with community, have the discussion, ask community, what questions do you all have, right? To inform the contours of the study.
What happens if it comes back and the neighbors are like 90% of them are like, no, we don't want it?
Then that's important to know. That's important to know. That's an important data point to know.
But do we not do it?
It's an open question.
It feels like NIMBYism again. where it's like not in my backyard. And if it's not in your backyard, it's not my backyard, it's not in his backyard, that means it's in no backyards, right? And that means, I guess, we keep using oil and gas, and we keep just doing these things. And, you know, the solar farm idea, they do have a solar farm, actually, by DIA.
They do, yeah.
And they're trying that. And, you know, France is actually trying to experiment with this model too, but the wind's not always blowing, the sun is not always shining, although Colorado does have 300 days of sunshine, but it's not always shining. There's some cloudy days.
There are like the 5 minutes, you know, when it rains and then it's sunny again.
You can spin up a nuclear reactor and it can give you more constant reaction. But the thing is, if we're going to be serious about climate change, we need to produce a lot more. I will give one pushback on this nuclear reactor thing that I think was annoying. Is they're like, oh, this would be great for DIA. Also, it would be good for AI and data centers.
Yes. They're because the small modular reactors, they can provide up to 300 megawatts of power. DIA's demands currently are 45 megawatts of power, and then there's other projects that will potentially add 40 more megawatts. So that means that if they built like one of these, an average modular reactor, or maybe a fleet of them as they're typically built, or will be, no projects like this have been approved. One was happening in Utah, but the cost overruns were so bad they canceled it. Another interesting piece. The money is the important part. But you're saying data centers. That's the other piece that the mayor in Washington were like, if we have this reactor, we might potentially be able to lure some companies like AI companies who need these big data centers. We could build those out by the airport, make a little bit more money, tax revenues for the city.
That's a red flag, right? If we're going to make nuclear energy and solar energy and wind farm energy, and we're not doing it to reduce the energy costs of average working class people, and instead we're doing it to run up data centers in the middle of nowhere so that people can be like, Grok, is this right? Like, we need to start prioritizing people over robots and people over companies. Like, if
this is technology, though. This is innovation. This is the age-old conversation. It is people. You know, if people find use in these things, if people like these things, then why not?
I mean, this will be
when it comes for our jobs, and when it comes for the automation of tasks that otherwise would be done by human beings. I was at a restaurant at Stanley Marketplace a couple of weeks ago, and a robot brought my meal. It was bizarre.
Did it do a good job?
It was the right order, but I wanted sriracha.
So you wanted a little bit more.
I wanted sriracha, and I had to like flag down a waiter because there was no way to communicate that with the robot.
And this
that is irritating. That's not working for you.
Correct.
Maybe they'll figure out a better way to do it though, because the innovation question is like, you know, people make that argument about jobs and like for every technology ever. The printing press, you know, the computer. We've always had this argument, and then it has always worked out.
If you AI in algorithms, and like we've already sort of done this, right? We've trained an artificial intelligence through social media, and we've targeted at people's brains. We've targeted at social media and said, hey, optimize this, not for profit or not for like human engagement and the betterment of humanity on that. It was like, hey, train these AIs to make as much money as possible. And we saw what that did to our minds, what's doing to our kids' minds, what it's doing to our society and democracy, right? So we've already had sort of an experiment through social media about how dangerous that could be. And if these AI systems are going to be used to make a profit at all costs, and they're trained on the history of the United States of America, we are going to start seeing a lot of deteriorating effects. It's going to be like late-stage capitalism supercharged, right? And that's something to be worried about. I mean, next week, you're going to be at the Capitol special session. It's on budget cuts and AI. So,
And currently, Colorado is the only state in the country that has any meaningful consumer protections for everyday people when it comes to AI. And the lobby is so riled up about that. They want to kill any and all consumer protections that exist. Even during the big, beautiful bill, big, bad bill negotiations, the idea of any types of regulations on AI at the federal level, which is probably where all of these regulations should occur, but
yeah, because does it make sense to go state by state?
Congress is not doing its job. Congress is failing to act. Democrats and Republicans alike, right? And so I'm really proud to have worked and to have supported a policy that established consumer protections here in the state of Colorado. Lobby's big mad about it. Our dear governor has included, by the way, in the midst of like responding to this huge gaping $1.2 billion budget hole, can we also figure out AI regulations, please? It's bizarre. And so we're gonna the number of lobbied interests who are going to come out with their claws next week at the Capitol is
it's going to be an exciting week. And I'm sorry, we do have to end it there because we were running a little bit long. I want to get to wins and fails. So listeners, we want to hear from you. I know there's a lot more to say, a lot more things we're not talking about. The Radioactive hotline is open, 720-500-5418. Call, leave a message, send us a text, 720-500-5418. One more break, and then wins and fails.
It's time to go over to our CityCast Denver neighbor and sponsor of this week's episode, Elizabeth Martinez with Porchlight Real Estate Group, for our weekly segment, Navigating Denver Real Estate, to answer all of your Denver housing market questions.
This week's question came from one of my current clients, Hannah A., that sent me a Zillow listing of a Littleton home listed for a sweet low price of $375,000. The question is, what is a home auction? How do they usually go? And is that really the price? Well, that's a trick question, since a home auction can mean a couple of different things. If it's a public trustee auction, that is an actual foreclosure. That is when someone defaulted on their loan and the lender is repossessing the home via the court system. Buyers can bid at this auction with cash only. That's a whole other discussion. But the type of auction we're seeing more often right now is really more of a marketing strategy. Here's how it works. The home is listed way below market value to generate a lot of interest and multiple bids. Buyers will submit offers at or over the starting bid, but here's the key. The seller probably has a number in mind they want or need, and they do not have to accept any offer. If they're hoping for $700,000 and the bids don't come close, they simply don't sell. So while the auction price grabs attention, it's not always the real price. Think of it as a way to test the market, not necessarily a guaranteed sweet deal.
This segment is sponsored by Elizabeth Martinez with Porchlight Real Estate Group. Have a question about Denver real estate? Use the link in the show notes to submit it. Elizabeth might answer your question in next week's segment.
All right, we're back. Time for the best way to end the week. Wins and fails, aka Rocky Mountain highs and lows. Each of us brought a recent local something. One we think is a win, one we think is a fail. We're going to talk about them. Julie, why don't you go first? Give us your fail.
My fail is the wildfires. It is terrifying to witness all of the different fires that have broken out across the state of Colorado. Thousands of firefighters are being deployed across the state. And the impacts that that's having on our air quality, my eyes have been scratchy. I feel like I have a frog in my throat all day. Mm-hmm. And that's because of, this, to Deep's earlier point, right, around the existential threat of climate change, right? That's the fail for this week.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. I've been living up north, like I mentioned, up outside of Longmont, and there was wildfire smoke filling the skies. I don't think we had it quite as bad here in Denver, but it was like 2 or 3 summers ago. There was this giant one. It felt like that up over Longmont the other night. I went for a walk with my wife, and it was just like I could barely breathe. It was so bad. Yeah. I forgot what that smelled like. It's awful. Yeah. Sorry for all the people on the Western Slope who are really directly affected by it. And appreciate the first responders too. Mm-hmm.
Shout out to everybody who is working together to keep each other safe. That, it's like that thing when in the midst of crisis, nobody cares if you're a Democrat or Republican, right? They want to protect your humanity and your dignity and treat you with kindness, right? And more of that, please. It's also a win.
Instead of $100 billion to ICE, $100 billion to firefighters.
Hey.
Although,
wow,
Paul has some firefighter
hot take. No, we're not talking about that. Although we are going to talk about that on the show soon.
Maybe we'll talk about the schoolyard beer garden. Be there.
No, the chief of the fire department has agreed to do an interview.
He
hasn't talked to anybody. He didn't talk when there was the scandal, the investigation into his. He's coming on the show soon. Deep, what's your fail?
My fail is on Monday. Denver City Council took a look at 2 referred measures for this fall. One was on instant runoff voting, and the other one was to split 2 at-large seats into 2 separate elections, seat A and seat B.
That one was weird. That one was weird to me.
Yeah, I'll get to that one in a second.
One.
So the first one, that one did pass its initial vote. So the first one was instant runoff voting. Essentially, instead of right now in Denver, you can kind of vote for whoever you want on the first ballot, and then the 2 who get the highest votes then go to a runoff a couple months later. And we could do away with that by essentially implementing something that New York City has, something that Boulder has, which is ranked choice voting, right? So instead of just ranking, instead of just choosing one candidate, you would say, hey, this is my number 1 pick, my number 2 pick, my number 3 pick. City Council rejected that 6-7, so that's unfortunate. Hopefully someone will take a look at it. Camp Theory, if you're listening, maybe you should just put it on the ballot yourself.
I thought they passed it. Did they reject it?
No,
They
they rejected that
rejected it.
one. Yeah,
Oh,
so that's a
man.
fail. And the other thing that was a fail is they rejected that one, but then they did accept a ploy by conservative dark money to essentially split up the at-large seats. Right now, the at-large seats are represented by Serena Gonzalez-Gutierrez and Sarah Parody, 2 of the largest, most aggressive progressives on City Council. And this is sort of a dark money funded initiative to split them up. So you would have at-large seat A and at-large seat B, so it's easier to target.
Huh.
Yeah.
So it's easier to target seats, saying for special interests.
Yes. So
Yeah,
it's
I don't
unfortunate. I mean,
know.
those are 2 working class people, and it's that first passed 7-6, but hopefully we can flip 1 or 2 people, and it doesn't fail. So yeah, fails.
I want to talk about that more on the show because I'm very skeptical of any kind of ideological arguments around rule changes around elections. I know there's just good arguments to make on all sides of those issues. I want to dig more into that one.
I would be maybe even okay without doing, if you did ranked choice voting and did that on the city council level, I think that still could work. The at-large seats, that could work in terms of the 2 most popular names could still go there. I wouldn't mind getting rid of at-large seats and just having 13 districts in smaller districts. But that's a conversation for another day.
We will. We'll have you back to have that one.
So much to say on that, but
Okay. All right. Well, we got to move on. I got to give my fail here, which is Whippets. Have you ever heard about Whippets? You know
The
about this?
drug?
Yeah, the drug.
No.
Whippets.
no idea. What?
I learned what this is this week. I had heard people
You
talk
just
about
learned?
this.
You're in Denver.
Literally, I just learned what this is this week. It's a brand name for nitrous oxide canisters.
Oh,
Yeah,
It's a drug. I just thought it was some gross thing people are doing, which I think it kind of is. But it's you put these canisters of nitrous in whipped cream, you should make whipped cream, and but people increasingly, in Denver, are using this as a drug and buying this, and it's more popular than ever. The hospital visits for nitrous abuse are on the rise, and there's more colorful branding on these products. There's brands that are Galaxy Gas, Exotic Whip, Monster Gas, clearly selling this as a drug. It used to be a staple of concerts outside Red Rocks, but now it's everywhere.
I would like the attorney general to go after these companies. That's ridiculous.
Isn't it crazy?
Selling to trying to target vulnerable people with colorful whippets.
Yeah, I don't know.
I just learned about it just now.
Is this
So the way it works is it
I'm
deprives
now officially
oxygen.
old.
It
I know.
deprives
I know, that's
oxygen
how
to
I
your
felt.
brain, which gives you sort of a lightheaded, hallucinating feeling.
a minute
It's the
or
same
so
reason
of
it's when you
euphor-
go. Maybe you don't know this, but if you ever go to any festivals, if you go to Coachella or something, people are walking around with helium balloons.
That's yeah.
And they're not just walking around with helium balloons or balloons just for the fun of it. It's because you can get high off of it.
Yeah, it's full of nitrogen. The balloon. You open these
balloons.
canisters, you fill the balloons,
Wow.
suck it
And
up.
you're walking
deprives your brain of oxygen.
So if you see someone walking
it
around
lasts
with
for
a
a
balloon,
minute.
there's probably some clown that hasn't really got this market. It's you're making balloon animals, but really you're just selling whippets in the form of a.
Don't give somebody another bill idea.
Last time I was on the show, I was talking about buskers. So now the clowns are going to be banned from 16th Street selling balloons.
I talked to a great busker this week. Shout out to Greg Porch. Wins. Let's do wins. I'll start. My win. I had a really great call with these 2 people, 2 Denverites, new Denverites. Their names are Steve Wargo and Blair Russell. They get the win for me this week. They are the the masterminds behind Denver Immersive Repertory Theater, which was one of the awardees of the Downtown Development Authority money. They got $400,000. It's a loan. This is the city's new tool to fund downtown revitalization projects. We've talked about it a ton on the show. Their project sounds awesome. I got so excited talking to these guys. They bought this old building at 15th and Blake, the old Patagonia store, and their vision for this is to gut it and then basically make it into a giant canvas where every 12 to 18 months, they're going to rebuild a whole set for a brand new immersive show and hire a whole troupe of actors. They're going to have 40 full-time jobs for these artists. It's going to be food and drink focused, and sometimes that will be integrated into the shows. And I'm like, I love this kind of thing. I love these immersive things. I'm going to one on Saturday that DCPA is doing. And so the fact that these guys have this giant vision and they're like Broadway veterans, they seem like they know what they're doing. They got funders from all over the country. They got a huge building, and their first show is going to premiere in March. And it's a twist on Midsummer Night's Dream that I'm going to get to go and like inhabit with them in this building. I got so excited for Denver in the future talking to these guys. I loved it.
That's
huge
exciting.
win. Huge win.
Very cool.
Oh, that's great.
It actually, hopefully, it actually pans out. Did you ever see that meme of the Willy Wonka experience in
No.
Glasgow? I'll have to send this to you.
All right, Julie, what's your win?
My win is, it is Palisade Peach season.
Oh, yeah.
It is Rocky Ford watermelon and cantaloupe season. And it's Olathe sweet corn season.
Rank them.
I went to...
Rank them
No,
for me.
no, no,
Rank
no.
them.
I went to King Soopers. I got all three. And I'm basically made up of like watermelon and peaches at this time of year. I just love so much.
Yeah, we got a big box of them back in the fridge.
Yeah.
And, take a few out and put them
Peach
on the counter.
cobbler,
2 or 3 a
peach
day.
pie. I like sound like the dude in Forrest Gump. Just all of the things you
Grilled
can
peaches.
do. 100%. Like, oh,
Dehydrated peaches. Peach pizza.
that's great.
Peach salsa. That's where
Peach
it's at.
salsa.
Mm-hmm.
Peach margaritas. We used to do a thing called Peach Day. Me and my wife would like have people over at our house, RIP our house, and everyone would bring like a peach recipe. It was a great tradition. Peach Day.
That's great.
Steal it. Everyone do it. It's good.
Yes.
It's fun.
Win.
Win. Good win. Deep, how about you?
My win is that on a previous episode, I had talked about this, but the Rocky Stadium was sold out this last weekend. If you didn't see, for the first time in a long time. And that's not because of the Rockies. That's because the Savannah Bananas sold out Coors Field 2 nights in a row. It looked amazing. It looked great. I really wanted to go, but tickets were on resale for like $150. But imagine that. The Rockies couldn't do that. I had a lot of friends who went. I was jealously looking at all the videos. It seemed like it was a good time. And as I'm hoping, I hope Monfort was standing there and like, oh my God, this is the future of baseball. Because Coors Field is really, really meant for something like that. I think it could work. No one wants to watch competitive baseball. They want banana ball. So that's my win.
Hey.
I wouldn't mind watching competitive baseball if the team was good. I'm going to be honest. I saw the hype. I saw a lot of people wearing these Bananas jerseys, and then I saw the videos of this, what it actually is. It was like, I don't know. I don't know if this is for me. Like the umpire dancing.
Sold out stadium.
I didn't get it.
When was the last time Rockies sold something out?
I have no idea.
That's what I'm
I
saying.
have no idea.
I think the thing is
Sell
like
the team.
sell the team,
Sell the team.
banana ball expansion team, Mile High Hunks. We're making it happen.
All right.
Or the Blue Animals.
Ooh.
I'm wearing my Lucifer earrings today.
Hey!
Hey. Shout out Isaac Lucero.
Yo, shout out to the Blue Animal Project.
Okay. All right. Links in the show notes to all of that. And that's all for the show. Thank you all so much for being with me. Deep, Julie, this has been fun.
Absolutely.
This was exciting. Thank you so much.
That's all for today here on CityCast Denver. Our producers this week were Olivia Jewel Love, Francisco Kilgore, and me, Paul Caroli. We record at the Dude IDK Studios in 5 Points. Peyton Garcia writes our morning newsletter. Abby Madigan runs our social media. Our music is by Los Mocochetes with additional mixing by Tyler Lindgren. If you haven't already, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at CityCast Denver, and who should we tell about this? Tell someone in Hudson, Colorado. Tell a neighbor. Give us a shout out. What's up with that?
Tell
prison?
all of the legislators who are going to be at the 200 East Colfax next week.
Tell them about us. And don't forget, you can support this show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Denver neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. And you can sign up for the daily newsletter I mentioned and learn more about us at denver.citycast.fm. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.